Welcome back, everyone, to part 4 of ranking every Leafs game from the 2024-25 season from best to worst. Last time I went and did this video, I did February and March of 2025. This time, however, this is going to be a very short and sweet video. Like, it's not going to be very long. We're going to start with April 2025, excuse me, where the Leafs wrap up their regular season from the Florida game all the way to the final game of the regular season. So we're almost there. This series is almost done. So that's something. But anyways, if you haven't checked out part 1, 2, and 3 of ranking every Leafs game, like, come on now. If you haven't checked it out, you're missing out here. So my best suggestion is pause the video and head to the description below the video to check out parts 1, 2, and 3 of each Leafs game. Of every rankings from parts 1, 2, and 3. So without that being said, let's get started. Also, before I switch over to the screen recording, I forgot to mention something in the Ducks game, where I put it at the B tier, where I forgot to say something like, okay, when the Leafs were playing against the Ducks, they had an opportunity to clinch a playoff spot. Sorry, there's a bottle right there. They had a chance to clinch a playoff spot for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And what that said here is the Toronto Maple Leafs will clinch a playoff berth if they defeat the Ducks in any fashion and the Canadiens lose to the Panthers in any fashion. Well, the Leafs did their part. They won against the Ducks 3-2 in regulation. But the Panthers lost to the Montreal Canadiens, so there's no clinching there. So I apologize if I didn't add that, but that's okay. Anyways, let's get started. Let's get to the video, shall we? Okay, so continuing on with the ranking, we're going to go to the 3-2 win over the Toronto Maple Leafs, a 3-2 win over the Florida Panthers, pardon me, and the Leafs, thank God, they not only beat the Panthers 3-2, they actually clinched a playoff spot. And it was a huge statement game because, well, you're taking on the defending champion Florida Panthers, whom are really a tough, aggressive team. So the Leafs had to put some fight in against the Panthers, and surely enough, they did just that. You saw John Tavares and Mitch Marner scoring for the Leafs, and Nyes for a Leafs 3-1 lead, and everything was going well. Only for the Leafs to get screwed on the penalty, where Pontus Holmberg gets called for a trip. Sam Reinhart scores to make it a one-goal game. But thank God the Leafs didn't blow a 3-1 lead to those Florida frauds, or else it would have been a huge problem. But at least the Leafs clinched a playoff spot, and they finally beat Sergei Bobrovsky at last. I mean, if the Leafs did blow this lead, then this would have been lower on the list. But for me, I'm putting this in the A tier. So the next game, okay, that's one. Next game is the Leafs' 5-0 win over the Columbus Blue Jackets. And to my surprise, this game was actually a pretty fun game. Really great game to watch. Because the Leafs shut out Columbus. Finally, they beat the Jackets at something. Where Nick Robertson, he scores twice. William Nylander, he scores twice. Austin Matthews scored. And Anthony Stolarz making 27 saves, and the Leafs finally solved Elvis Merzlikins. And the Leafs did not lose to the Jackets, thankfully. They didn't get swept. They lost the regular season series to the Jackets, but they did salvage that game. So that is an A tier. Again, why wasn't this scoring average present in the game against Columbus in the last two games? I'll never know. And maybe it was because of Dennis Hildeby, and thank God Craig Berube did not start Dennis Hildeby in net for the Columbus game, or else the Leafs would have gone swept, and that would be a huge no-no. Next one is the Leafs 3-1 loss to the Florida Panthers, and this one was a huge opportunity for the Leafs to, clinch home ice advantage. I thought the Leafs had a chance to clinch home ice advantage, but instead, oh boy, it was really bad. Things went up in flames Okay, it was really bad. Okay, first off, Gustav Forsling scored in the first period. 1-0 Florida there. But then John Tavares tied it up, and it's like, okay, I think we have a chance. But everything went down the drain because Morgan Riley turned the puck over to Eetu Luostarinen to let the Panthers regain the lead, and they don't even clinch home ice advantage. And that was pretty stupid. A horrible game against one of the most fraudulent NHL teams in the history of sports. That is in D tier. Like, oh boy, pretty bad. I thought the Leafs had a chance to split the regular season series against the Panthers, but they did not. And that was bull. The next one is the Leafs' 4-3 overtime win over the Tampa Bay Lightning. And to be honest, this game was actually a pretty good game because Matthew Knies got a hat trick in overtime, where the Leafs won in overtime, and that was the only good thing that happened. It was pretty good, but the only thing that really sucked was the penalties. That was really hurting the Toronto Maple Leafs. Okay, you got Scott Laughton getting called for interference, which led to Oliver Bjorkstrand to tie things up at 2, and the Leafs blew a 2-0 lead. And then Knies had to score on the power play to regain the Leafs lead. And then another penalty called on Toronto on Bobby McMann for a cross-check, which led to Victor Hedman scoring the goal to tie things up at 3. It's the penalties that kill you. But minus the penalties, this would have been an S tier. But again, it's an A tier. But it's okay, though. But at least the Leafs sweep Tampa Bay in the regular season. But it's a shame that the Leafs didn't face Tampa Bay in the postseason. Okay, I'm getting a little off topic here, but like I was saying, that's an A tier. The next game is a 1-0 overtime win over the Montreal Canadiens, and look, I'll be honest here, Montreal was also fighting for a playoff spot too. So what did Toronto do? That's right, they had to avoid a disaster, and they did just that. They avoided Montreal from clinching a playoff spot. And it was a tight, contested game, back and forth, through 3 periods, 60 minutes, until Mitch Marner scored the game winner in overtime, and then Anthony Stolarz got a shutout, making 15 saves. That is a B tier. Now, it would have been higher, but you know what? It's just an average game. Nothing really was interesting, but it was pretty average, so that's a B tier. I'll be honest with you, with that 1-0 win over Montreal, I mean, that was a good game, by the way. But what really dragged down this game was the starting lineup. Okay? This is what the starting lineup looked like for the Toronto Maple Leafs. You got your 12 forwards, okay? The forwards is perfectly intact. Knies, Matthews, Marner. Jarnkrok, Tavares, Nylander. McMann, Domi, Robertson, Holmberg, Laughton, Lorentz. No biggie there. But when you look at the defense by the Maple Leafs, the Leafs were down. Wait for it. They were down by. They were one defenseman short. One defenseman short, which consisted of Simon Bennett, Chris Tanev, Morgan Riley, Brandon Carlo, and Philip Myers. See, I like that. That's the huge problem. It's the decor. I mean, you could have just called up a minor player, but you can't because that minor league player is in the playoffs or this whatever. That's what I don't get. It's the defense. Like, you're down 1D. I understand that, but but it's like you had to experiment with Marner. Put Marner, have him on the forward line with Matthews and Knies, and then put him with Philip Myers in the defense. I mean, sure, Leafs lost David Kampf. I understand that. Oh, sorry. Jake McCabe. They lost Jake McCabe to injury in the Florida game. And it is what it is. That's mind blowing. It's 1D men short. Now, I mean, who knows? I mean, Leafs got the win. But if they lost, who knows? Okay. Let's continue on, shall we? probably going to be really quick, so let's just end it with the final 3 games, shall we? So the next game was the 4-1 win over the Carolina Hurricanes, and, well, at least the Leafs weathered the storm in Carolina on a second night of a back-to-back because, well, at least Auston Matthews, he scored. He almost hit his career record of 400 goals with 399 career goals, and everyone was stepping up. Every player stepped up on the forward lines. But what wasn't amazing was the double minor on Chris Tanev for a trip and a high stick call, allowing Sebastian Aho to score the power play goal. But other than that, it was still a great win. So I'll put this in the A tier. A very entertaining game. Next off is the 4-0 win over the Buffalo Sabres. And this one, of course, gave the Leafs the Atlantic Division, where for the first time in years, the Leafs clinched the Atlantic Division, and they did it in style against the Buffalo Sabres out of all teams, where Steven Lorentz scored off of a draw after Scott Laughton drew up the goal for Steven Lorentz for a 1-0 Leafs lead. Mitch Marner getting his 100th career point in his season, a 100-point season, finally reaching the 100 points for the 2024-25 season. He came up short in previous seasons when he had the 100-point season up for grabs, but he finally got it. And then Auston Matthews scoring career goal number 400, and Nick Robertson scoring for Toronto. Not to mention, Anthony Stolarz gets another shutout, which he made 35 saves and stopping every Sabres player from left to right. And this game was really fun, especially against the Buffalo Sabres out of all the teams. So that game gives it an S tier. And last but certainly not least is the final game of the regular season. Game 82 against the Detroit Red Wings, where the Leafs ended the regular season with a bang, but they've also ended the regular season, with a comeback win over the Detroit Red Wings, where the Leafs were down 3-1 to the Red Wings, where Justin Hall and Alex DeBrincat scored in the second period before the Leafs locked in the third period, where Philip Myers scored a play of the day goal, and Chris Tanev scoring the tying goal to tie things up at 3 in the dying seconds of the game. And then, of course, the icing on the cake, Scott Laughton scoring the game winner to win it for the Leafs. And, that was a really fun game. A really entertaining game from the start to the finish, so that gives it an S tier. And the Leafs end the regular season with a 52-26-4 record, and they have 108 points. And that, of course, is it for Part 4 of ranking every Leafs game from best to worst for April 2025. Now, I know this was a little short and sweet video because I don't want to go into depth about the playoffs, so I decided I'll do the playoffs for another video. So I think that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys on the finale of ranking every Leafs game from best to worst. So until then, I'll see you guys next time. Bye for now.